Hispanic Heritage Month means bringing the diverse books we read all year long to the forefront. While fully experiencing a culture includes interacting with people of that culture in a respectful and mutually beneficial way, reading books by and about Hispanic people is a good place to start. I've got authors from across Mexico, the Spanish-speaking Caribbean, Central, and South America for you today. Let's check it out. Hi there! I'm Michelle with the Goffstown Public Library, where I'm an adult services librarian. If you're new here, welcome to our library, and if you're returning, welcome back. We're so happy to have you here. On this episode of Book Talk with Michelle, I'll be sharing 5 books by Hispanic authors to honor Hispanic Heritage Month. Hispanic Heritage Month is a yearly celebration of the history, culture, and contributions of Americans with ancestors from Spain, Mexico, the Spanish-speaking Caribbean, and Central and South America. If you're interested in learning about the history of Hispanic Heritage Month, visit hispanicheritage.gov to learn more. And while you're there, you can see what virtual events they're holding all month long, which includes a performance of Cuban roots music in California on September 30th. Celebrating the arts of a culture like music and literature is a really great gateway into the customs, beliefs, and achievements of a social group, in this case, Hispanic Americans. And as a note about language here, many people use the terms Hispanic and Latin American, or more recently Latinx, interchangeably. Hispanic generally refers to people from Spain or another Spanish-speaking country, which includes Spain and excludes Brazil. Latin American, or Latinx, refers to people from Latin America, including Brazil, but excluding Spain. None of these terms are wholeheartedly embraced by the communities that they're meant to represent. In fact, many people that the U.S. government considers Hispanic are much more likely to refer to themselves in terms of their family's country of origin. For example, Mexican American, Colombian American, or simply American. Today, I'll be using Hispanic to align with the definition for Hispanic Heritage Month, and I will only be focusing on Hispanic American authors. Also, I am a huge advocate for reading diversely always, not just during one celebratory month. So consider the books I share today great to read this month, next month, and all year round. Phew, this is getting into a long intro. Let's get started with the books. I find that yearly month-long celebrations like Hispanic Heritage Month and Black History Month often feature the same few classic authors, which gives the impression that these cultures are part of the past and not part of a vibrant present. That's why I wanted to focus on brand new books by authors writing and making waves today. Books like The Grief Keeper by Alexandra Villasante. The Grief Keeper is a young adult debut about healing, faith, and freedom. The novel follows 17-year-old Marisol, who's always wanted to be an American. But when she imagined her life as an American, it did not include fleeing her home of El Salvador under threat of death, or living in the U.S. as a quote-unquote illegal. But her brother's death, her mother's flight, and her sister's jeopardy have forced her into drastic action. When caught crossing the border, Marisol is offered a job as a grief keeper, taking the grief of another into her body to save a life as part of a risky and experimental study. Desperate to do anything to keep her safe, Marisol accepts, but could not ever imagine the consequences. The Grief Keeper is a tender tale that explores the heartbreak and consequences of when both love and human beings are branded illegal. Despite the complex topics, the novel handles Marisol's plight respectfully. Even the antagonists are treated with nuance. You'll definitely need the ability to suspend your disbelief for this one, but the fast-paced narrative does offer believable cultural and LGBTQIA+ representation. I think this will be best for readers who enjoyed The Sun Is Also a Star by Nicola, Yoon, and We Are Okay by Nina Lecour. For a nonfiction account of the immigration experience under the Trump administration, look to The Book of Rosie by Rosayra, Pablo, Cruz, and Julie Schwietert Collazo. The Book of Rosie is a searing memoir written by a mother separated from her children at the U.S.-Mexican border and the American who helps reunite their family. It is truly a disturbing account of the injustice in today's immigrant experience. Pablo Cruz describes the heartbreaking conditions she endured after fleeing Guatemala and paints a harrowing picture of incarcerated mothers separated from their children, forced to draw on faith and community for the smallest shreds of hope and dignity. It's here that Pablo Cruz's Christian faith really comes through in the narrative. In the second part of the book, the narration shifts to Collazo, who provides background information on the Immigrant Families Together organization, which raises money to reunite families separated by the Trump administration's immigration policies. The memoir concludes with Pablo Cruz describing the long-term effects of her family's separation and her new life in the United States. What the book lacks in writing style, it makes up for in raw emotional intensity and powerful activism. If you enjoy first-hand accounts of migration, the Book of Rosie is not to be missed. Family is at the center of the Book of Rosie, but for many people, blood relatives are not a safe haven from oppression. Sometimes it's the families we choose that are the most important, as in The House of Impossible Beauties by Joseph Cassara. Cassara's novel follows a large cast of gay and transgender characters as they navigate the Harlem ballroom scene of the 1980s and 90s. This book takes great inspiration from the 1991 documentary Paris is Burning and recreates the real-life House of Extravaganza, the first Latinx house on the ballroom scene. Key members of the New York drag ball scene, Angie and Venus Extravaganza, bind the main cast together. But the author is quick to remind us that this is fiction. If you're expecting a whirlwind tour of the balls, you're going to want to look elsewhere. This book brings the inner lives of its characters to center stage and relegates the setting to the periphery. As our main characters build family and authentic lives in the ballroom scene, they also grapple with the AIDS epidemic and drug abuse in their community. Readers can expect glamour, but also sorrow, fierce love, and devastating hardship in this meandering narrative. It's definitely more slice of life than structured story arc. You'll want to pick up this book if you enjoy character-driven and heart-wrenching literary fiction. But you certainly don't need to rely on fiction for hardship. Ordinary Girls by Jaquira Diaz is a memoir steeped in adversity. Diaz traces her upbringing from the housing projects of Puerto Rico through her mother's battle of schizophrenia and her own struggles with sexual assault towards her dream of a literary career. Puerto Rico's colonized past looms over the narrative even as the Diaz family moves to Miami, always in search for better fortune, but never finding it in, as Diaz describes, the increasingly smaller apartments. Her experiences of depression, running away, marriage at 16, and sexual assault color many chapters of this memoir. So please take care if these topics could be uncomfortable for you. But you can look forward to the later chapters where Diaz enlists in the Navy and finds the structure and affirmation she needed. Reading this is a masterclass in first-rate memoir writing. It's candid and compelling and full of lots of vulnerability and courage. I would even go as far as to say that it rivals Educated by Tara Westover in terms of style and impact. Ordinary Girls deserves just the same level of popularity, so if you liked Educated, check this one out today. And last but not least, I've got a happy book. When reading about cultures other than your own, it's important to think about whether you're only exploiting their cultural pain or taking part in their cultural joys and triumphs. The last 4 books I mentioned do have moments of tenderness and joy, but overwhelmingly, they're tragic stories. Hispanic narratives are more than just heartache about immigration or prejudice. They're also stories of fantasy and science fiction and romance and adventure. So don't forget to read books like You Had Me at Hola by Alexis Daria. This romantic comedy follows soap star Jasmine, who has just signed into a new bilingual comedy after a messy breakup that was splashed across the tabloids. She's happy to be back in New York and close with her cousins, who are helping her implement her leading lady plan, a set of rules to get to the top of her industry, which include very strict maxims about things like dating co-stars. Too bad Jasmine's new show has paired her with Ashton, an enigmatic but deeply private man. Their chemistry on and off screen is explosive, but Ashton must balance his attraction with the danger of publicly dating Jasmine, who's a paparazzi magnet. These characters are smart and complex. They don't get over their challenges easily. But even better, the settings and relationships have a distinctly Hispanic feel. I particularly enjoy the sense of pride in Hispanic culture woven throughout. Topics like representation in Hollywood are discussed, but overwhelmingly, the story doesn't dwell on the challenges facing the community. Rather, love and happiness are in the forefront. As one reviewer puts it, it's a vibrant celebration. You're going to want to get ready for a little steam with this one, and absolutely don't miss it if you liked Jane the Virgin on Netflix. So there you have it, 5 books written by Hispanic American authors in honor of Hispanic Heritage Month. I didn't even scratch the surface of Hispanic American authors writing in translation or non-American Hispanic authors. So if you've got some great ones to recommend, put them in the comments below, or leave a message about what you thought of these recommendations. As always, any book I talked about is listed in the description, along with information about how you can start accessing the Goffstown Public Library's downloadable content. All you need is your library card to access our huge e-library for free. Like and share this video if you got something out of it, and don't forget to subscribe. Subscribing helps other people find our community and make sure you don't miss another episode. I'll be back here next week with another episode of Book Talk with Michelle, but in the meantime, you can connect with the Goffstown Public Library on our social media or visit goffstownlibrary.com to see what's in the catalog yourself. Again, I'm Michelle with the Goffstown Public Library, and I'll check you out later. Bye!